The topic for this month was surrender, which is taken from Pathwork Lecture 254. What these small videos are developing into, rather than what they were originally envisioned to be, they're winding up being a summary of what I've learned while hearing people sharing about their experience of the lecture throughout the month. And what I have realized is that most people have a human view of surrender based upon giving in and giving up. Now, the lecture itself talks about surrender from a different perspective. And this difference in perspective, I usually use my hands just to show a reversal of the paradox. The reversal is due to the duality on the earth plane. That is, human beings believe that you're either right or wrong, alive or dead, good or bad. So you either win or you lose. From the spiritual perspective, there is no losing. Oddly enough, that doesn't mean there's no winning, but it's not really a winning, it just is. In other words, from a spiritual perspective, goodness wins because it's inherently positive, constructive, enjoyable, pleasurable, and inevitably more attractive than negativity is. Even though negativity can be exciting if you're bored or trapped or you can't seem to find any real pleasure, you'll enjoy negative pleasure. However, once you're offered the choice of real pleasure, real happiness, real love, versus a forced version of those things, there's an inevitability to choosing long-term, genuine, deeply felt pleasure. So the winning, in human terms, is more a matter of inevitability in spiritual terms. So what does that mean in terms of surrender? The lecture talks about surrender being a giving in process based upon, oh, that's true. Not, oh, you win, but, oh, that's true. It's a giving in to the truth of a situation rather than being overpowered by stronger forces. So you don't give in to God because God doesn't ask you to give in. People do. God does not ask you to give in. God welcomes you to a more expansive level of development. If you choose to say no for a while, what the Pathwork lectures teach is that God, I'm speaking of it in the anthropomorphic sense, but the deity, the being, the creative force in the universe, stands back and says, eventually, you will figure this out. Eventually, you will find deeper truth, more powerful love that is real. You will find the beauty of union and sharing and giving, rather than withholding and trying to win or trying to accumulate, because those joys are limited. So the surrender in this lecture is about realization rather than giving in. And the second element is that in human surrender, you just give in and basically say whatever. That's not the kind of surrender that is envisioned here or that is invited. The kind of surrender suggested by this lecture is enlisting you in the struggle to make truth more apparent. In other words, they don't want to overpower you with truth. There's an invitation here to realize truth, to engage with truth, to recognize the true authority of truth in a given situation, and to share that with others. So in other words, the surrender is a surrendering of your narrow, ego-focused self-will to a larger will. Now, you can call that God's will, but the problem is that it brings up that anthropomorphization again. It brings up the idea that somebody else won or somebody else is in charge. And again, that's just how humans conceive of a greater power, a greater authority. It's sometimes easier to think of God like you might think of gravity. It simply is. It's the force in the universe. It happens when certain situations occur. It's natural. It's inevitable. It can't really be usurped or twisted. It can be used like a slingshot, but it can't be destroyed or overcome because it's inherent in the principles of the particles of matter. And that's what truth is. It's inherent, just like atomic structure is inherent. So that's what I find is sometimes the missing element of perspective in looking at this lecture, is that we look at it from the perspective of a human being rather than a larger perspective where human beings are slightly misaligned and are being invited to realign. So I hope you will enjoy the lecture, and many happy returns for the new year, and my best wishes to you.